Joe Rogan has done over 2,000 episodes. Most of them are 3 hours of easy conversation. These are not those. These are the moments the conversation stopped being friendly. A flat earth meltdown, a boxing legend making the room go silent, a CNN doctor walking into an ambush, and a debate so heated the host had to publicly apologize afterward. 10 moments.
We just looked at one, Eddie. Stop saying that.
It was fake.
You don't know that it's fake.
This is what I hate. This is what I hate.
But hold
because
on.
then it's
Let me
like,
finish
Candace,
what
you
I'm
have
saying.
to have a formed opinion on everything.
No, you don't have to have a The rest of them are all lying about me taking horse medication. And we should talk about that.
That bothered you.
It should bother you, too.
Eddie Bravo is one of Joe's oldest friends, a jiu-jitsu legend, and a fixture on the show. He's also a man who believes photos of the Earth are fake. Across multiple episodes, their flat Earth arguments became legendary. Eddie claiming NASA lies about everything. Joe getting more and more exasperated with every sentence. The peak of it, an argument so long it could be its own podcast.
This Japanese satellite that all these hundreds of scientists worked on
Fake
for like
NASA.
a decade.
They faked moon
They shoot
landings.
it out into the space.
They faked
take
the moon
a
landings.
picture every 10 minutes, and you can download it from the website. There's a
CGI
picture.
composites.
So constantly making CGI in some sort
Constantly.
of a computer
Constantly.
bank somewhere.
Yes. Like they
But
do it in
why-
NASA. NASA, that's what they do.
Why?
Remember, these two have known each other for decades. That's the only reason this conversation is still happening.
We just looked at one, Eddie. Stop saying that.
It was fake.
You don't know that it's fake.
Okay.
But you're saying, look, it's a real problem when you
I'm
say
crazy.
something. But don't say that.
I
Just
am.
stop. Just stop and think. Because you're communicating to millions of people.
And this is the short version. The real argument went on for the better part of an hour.
You think it's more likely that everyone is in on it and lying than it is one guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about and he makes a YouTube video and you get convinced. And it's attractive to you because it seems like it would be an amazing conspiracy to be ahead of. And you get trapped in the fucking rabbit hole and you go down the flat earth rabbit hole and you find yourself defending things with experiments that you don't even understand.
Mike Tyson doesn't do small talk. When he came on the show, he spoke about the darkest parts of his fighting life with total sincerity. And at one point, Joe reacted the way most people do when they're uncomfortable. He laughed. Tyson looked at him and made it clear, this isn't funny. And then Tyson flipped the table, asking Joe a blunt, direct question about his own fighting past.
I did that video and I was in bed for a week. That was 30 seconds and I was in bed for a week. And it's not funny because it made me realize that this is big boy
Serious.
shit, okay?
Big boy shit.
This big boy shit. You was
There
out,
it is right there.
Yeah, that wasn't really cool.
That's the fastest a laugh has ever left a room. And Tyson wasn't done, because then he turned the interview around.
Hey, did you ever do any fighting?
I did kickboxing and
Tell me about
taekwondo
that.
tournaments. I was pretty good at taekwondo. I won a bunch of state championships and won a few national tournaments.
The host of the biggest podcast on earth, suddenly the one being interviewed by Mike Tyson.
When did you know you wanted to get physical with another human being and do this stuff? Because, you can't be in right frame of mind to want to do this stuff.
No.
You got to realize that.
I was
People
very
that do
scared.
this stuff are not in the right frame of mind.
Yeah.
And that's dealing with fear drives you insane.
Yeah.
To deal with that drives people insane. I was insane during my career.
May 2018, episode 1025. Political commentator Candace Owens tells Joe she doesn't believe in climate change, calling it a way to extract money from Americans. Joe, visibly stunned, pulls up Scientific American live on the show. The large majority of scientists agree humans are driving it. What follows is Joe doing something he rarely does, flat out telling a guest they don't know what they're talking about.
Do I believe in climate change? No.
You don't believe in climate change?
Well, I think the climate always changes, I guess is what I should say. Do I believe that this is like, an issue that is being, that is global warming, which they've changed conveniently. They got rid of the word once scientists started disproving it. Now they only say climate change. No, I think that was just a way to extract dollars from Americans. I don't.
So Joe does what Joe does. He asks Jamie to pull it up.
2014, the vast majority, 87% of scientists said that human activity is driving global warming, yet only half the American public ascribe to that view. So
Well, what website is this?
87%, and this is,
Scientific American.
yeah.
Yeah, .com though, like, 'cause that means it's making money. I don't trust that. If it was a .org, I would probably take that. But this is just a random website, and I don't
Scientific
trust.
American is not necessarily a random website. It's,
Yeah, I don't believe this at all. Just so you know.
And then the line this whole exchange is remembered for.
But what I'm saying is that you are a very smart person,
Yeah.
and people listen to you, and they're going to listen to you for a long time.
But this is what I hate. This is what I hate.
But hold
because
on,
then
let
it's
me
like,
finish
Candace,
what
you
I'm
have
saying.
to have a formed opinion on everything.
No, you don't have to have a formed opinion
Yeah.
on everything. What you do have to have is the ability to know when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
But I just said that.
January 2022. Jordan Peterson's return episode, number 11769, made headlines for all kinds of reasons. But the moment the internet couldn't stop replaying wasn't a debate at all. Mid-conversation, deep into hour 2, both men completely lose the thread. Not a beat, not a pause for effect. Two of the most listened to talkers on the planet, staring at each other, genuinely unable to remember what they were talking about.
No.
What are you saying?
No, they were doing it because it was wrong.
Right.
They didn't just know, but that's different,
wrong
right?
is the wrong word then.
No, it isn't. It's exactly right. They were out to do the maximal amount of harm
I don't mean
in the minimal amount of time.
But they felt it was the thing to do, and they didn't think that there was something
No, they thought
that
it
they
was
shouldn't do.
600 million streams a month between them, and nobody in the room knows what the topic is.
And each of those 1,000 people is going to know 1,000 people. So you're one step from 1 million and 2 steps from 1 billion. And we are networked, technically. That's how human interactions work. And so when you do something that you shouldn't do, it's worse than you think. And when you do something that you should do, it's better than you think.
Sometimes the most awkward moment on a 3-hour podcast is the silence. February 2017, episode 917. What starts as a policy discussion about marijuana legalization becomes the single most hostile exchange in the show's history. Crowder claims traffic fatalities skyrocketed in states that legalized. Joe has the article pulled up to counter it. Crowder keeps interrupting, and Joe, mid-drink, mid-argument, stops being polite entirely. The insults start flying. It got so heated that Joe later apologized on Instagram for how he handled it, saying the conversation went off the rails.
But another thing that we just wrote about, and again, people get mad with the
Economics.
weed issue. Well, no, traffic fatalities regarding marijuana have skyrocketed.
Google that, because that's nonsense.
No,
you
we
know,
wrote about it at better.com.
drunk driving arrests have dropped. What do you mean you've? First of all,
No, we wrote about what the sources
first of
are,
all,
the original studies.
Just because someone gets in an accident and they're high,
See,
because hold on, stop.
No, hold on a second. This is
you
because you just
interrupt
want-
way too much.
No, no,
You need to stop.
you talk in
hold on
paragraphs.
A second. No. I don't talk in
Go ahead.
paragraphs. I make full points.
And this is where it stops being a debate about weed and becomes a debate about interrupting.
See, this is where I was saying
it was,
I don't
hold
care
on,
about
don't
this.
interrupt me, you fuck. Where Hillary Clinton said that she's against marijuana in every sense of the word, right? You remember those
Trump's
WikiLeaks
pretty against it,
papers
too.
that came out?
Yeah.
Is he? He said he would leave it up to the states.
Yeah.
That's actually a constitutional approach.
But he wants to beef up the war on drugs.
You know why? I bet someone slipped him a pot cookie once.
2 grown men, 1 podcast, 0 chill.
And I asked one question, and then you get a paragraph.
You'd like
You
doing
said
this,
that
don't
study,
you?
Joe,
You
I
like
literally
doing
said,
this.
I'll give
You
it to
do.
you. You win the argument, and you bring up another thing about pot.
Well, it's because
'Cause
you
you
don't
can't let it
really
go.
you don't really give up. You
I
reluctantly
did.
give up.
I said I'll give it to you. You're right. Let's assume I'm
okay,
wrong.
you're definitely wrong.
Let's assume I'm wrong.
Okay, so what else would be the problem with marijuana?
October 2022, episode 1895. Daily Wire commentator Matt Walsh argues that marriage exists for one purpose: procreation and family. Joe asks a simple question: then what about couples who never have kids? What follows is one of the sharpest back and forths the show has produced. Joe returning to the same question from every angle, Walsh trying to hold his definition together, neither man raising his voice and neither giving an inch.
I think of marriage is a certain thing, which is the context for procreation, for the building of the nuclear family.
What about people that get married that don't have kids? Are you opposed to that? What if they get married, they decide, you know what, we don't need kids, I'm going to get fixed. You get your tubes tied, let's travel the world.
That one question is the whole fight, and Joe is not going to let it go.
But then why are you opposed to 2 gay people doing that?
Well, because again, it's not about choice. It's about what this institution, marriage is an institution, and what is it, and what purpose does it serve? And I do not agree with tearing down or changing this definition.
No shouting, no insults, just one question, asked over and over, that never gets an answer.
There is something wrong with getting married and saying, oh, we're not going to have any kids at all.
But why is there something wrong with that if someone's personal choice? Why is it wrong that 2 people are like, I am deeply committed to work and I don't want to sacrifice any of my career and I don't want to ruin a kid because I'm constantly at the office.
April 2019, Adam Conover, the host of Adam Ruins Everything, a show literally built on correcting people, walks into a debate about trans athletes in women's sports. Joe argues physiological advantage. Adam argues inclusion, and neither of them will let the other finish a sentence. It's not the angriest clash on this list. It's the most relentless. 40+ minutes of two professional talkers colliding in real time.
How do you feel about trans athletes?
You know, it's a good question. I think we're really going to go through like a cultural change on how we think about that. You know, and it's morphing so quickly. You know what I mean? I'm very much, because I am of this opinion that there is no such thing as like perfect fairness, and when we make those distinctions, we're always choosing who to allow. And because I think we should choose to allow like trans people to participate in society.
Watch what happens to the sentences. Nobody gets to the end of one.
Well, I disagree, and
What do you disagree about?
I've already my main point being the one that I already made, right? That like I don't think that there is such a thing as a perfectly level playing field. I think we decide what kind of playing field we want to have.
To their credit, they went the full 3 hours. Most of it sounded exactly like this.
People go crazy. Because it's complicated, and people, they dig their heels in the ground on both sides, you know?
And you know, I try to have, I'm happy we're able to have a conversation about it. I try to have a conversation that's based on, you know, what I try not to say more than I think I can say with surety.
September 2015, Milo Yiannopoulos tells Joe that morality itself comes from Christianity, that places without Christian heritage have, in his words, bad morals. Joe calls the claim ridiculous on the spot, but the truly tense part comes next. Joe points out the contradiction between Milo's faith and his own life as an openly gay man, and keeps pressing as Milo says that if he could choose, he wouldn't be gay. Joe's response to that is about as blunt as this show has ever gotten.
It's done and dusted. We lost.
Well, don't you think
we
that
lost? And by we, I mean people who actually wanted to find out what the science said. What I objected to is simply telling people lies. Born this way is a lie, and you know because.
But isn't it a true story with some of them?
Well, like nobody that's holding the signs, because most of the ones holding the signs, the militant homosexuals, are the ones that chose to be gay to get at people.
And then Joe stops debating theology and makes it personal, respectfully, but very, very directly.
But this whole picture that we're painting here is so strange. Is someone who believes but doesn't practice. You believe in religion, but you don't practice any of the things that religion espouses, especially the sexual stuff.
It's one of the rawest exchanges in the show's history, because for once, the guest's argument and the guest's life were the same topic. October 2021, CNN's chief medical correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta agrees to come on. He later called it walking into the lion's den. He expected a debate about vaccines. What he got, on top of that, was Joe confronting him about his own network. CNN had repeatedly described Joe's COVID treatment as taking horse dewormer.
And I do have the natural antibodies now. Why would I take a chance in getting vaccinated on top of that?
By the way, I'm glad you're better. I'm glad it only lasted a day.
You're probably the only one at CNN that's glad.
No. We're not.
The rest of them are all lying about me taking horse medication. And we should talk about that.
That bothered you.
It should bother you, too. They're lying at your network about people taking human drugs versus drugs for veterinary.
Calling it a horse dewormer is not a flattering thing. I get that.
It's a lie.
Gupta came prepared for a medical debate. He did not come prepared to answer for his employer.
Before we get to that, does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied, just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer?
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
For the finale, the awkward one, June 2018, episode 146, talk show host Dave Rubin, deep in a conversation about government regulation, suggests we might not need building codes, that the free market would sort out which builders are safe. Joe's face does something the audience had never seen before. What follows isn't a shouting match. It's worse.
You have a vested interest in doing the best plumbing job you can so that people will rate you on Yelp so that you will get more work. You don't have a vested interest in cutting corners. Now, you might, right? You're going to push it as much as you can to save as much time and energy and money as you can.
No yelling, no insults. Just a man watching another man argue against fire exits.
And they know what's safe and what's not safe. That's why those codes exist. It exists to protect the consumers. You can't just protect the consumers through the marketplace because
so I'm not calling for
long time for these problems to become a real issue. And these problems could potentially damage everybody in the neighborhood. It's not just going to affect the person on this one lot. Like if a fire starts, it burns all the houses in the neighborhood, or if a flood happens and it floods everyone downhill, it's a real problem. Like you have to be real careful with construction.
10 guests, 10 meltdowns, one host who keeps inviting people who disagree with him, which means there will absolutely be a part 2. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.